What if the reason that you keep ending up back in pain, even after you change your diet, your products, your doctor, and your entire situation, is not because healing feels impossible for you? But what if it is because your nervous system was never taught how to feel safe? In this video, I'm covering 3 practices to rewire your nervous system towards healing from the inside out. Hi, I'm Amelia and welcome to Angels in Harmony, a channel for women who are learning how to reconnect with their bodies so that they can fall in love with who they are again and rebuild the life that they want. Subscribe if that sounds like something that aligns with you. Let me start with the word that carries a lot of weight: chronic. When a doctor gives you a chronic diagnosis, it can sometimes feel like a life sentence, like the verdict has been read and there's nothing left to do but to manage the symptoms till the end. Chronic means for life. And that word alone can do something to the way that you see yourself and the way that you see the rest of your future. My mom always told me something I have carried with me ever since I was younger. She always told me that eczema can be cured. They just haven't found a cure yet. And she believed that about every chronic illness, and that every sickness has an answer and we just not have found all of them yet. And I believe that too. And that may be delusion, but it switched something in my brain. Because here's the truth. Your condition is called chronic not because healing is impossible, but because the medicine has not caught up yet. That is a very different thing. And the way that you carry that distinction in your mind changes everything about how your body responds when healing actually starts to happen. Now, I want to be clear about something before we go a little further. Eczema is a real physical condition. I mean, look. Yes, it is real. Waking up with skin so dry, it cracks, so inflamed that it's so hard to bend your arms and legs, so uncomfortable that it affects the way that you even walk, and how you sleep, and how you actually exist in your own body. And this is not all in your head. This is an actual physical experience that is not a choice. Nobody watching this video right now is choosing to be in that pain. What I am talking about is not the physical condition. It is the layer that the nervous system adds on top of it. There is a difference between the symptoms your skin produces and the stress patterns that your mind creates in response to those symptoms. Both are real and both of them actually matter. Addressing the second one actually changes the way that your body responds to the first. That's the distinction, and this is what this whole video is about. Your brain runs on prediction. It anticipates what is coming based on what it has already experienced. And if you lived in a body that has experienced pain for a very long time, not just the physical pain, but the emotional weight of managing a condition that also affects the way that you look, how you feel, and how other people see you. And because of that, your nervous system stops treating stress as an alarm system for your body. It starts treating stress as its baseline. So that repeated exposure to cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and adrenaline, rewires the brain's prediction systems. Over time, the nervous system begins to manufacture stress in calm environments because calm has become unfamiliar, and unfamiliar registers as unsafe. This is a biological adaptation, not a personal failure. Think of it as the same way that you would think of any kind of addiction. Your nervous system learned how to function on a particular chemical state, the cortisol and dopamine cycle that inflammation creates, and now it constantly starts to seek out that state, even when you don't consciously want it. Here's when it gets specific to your skin. So when your sensitive skin starts to improve, when you have a good week and inflammation starts to calm down, your nervous system doesn't actually start to celebrate the way that you do. It actually starts to get suspicious. It does not trust the quiet, the calm, and the revelation. So it starts to find its way back to familiar territory. So you start to obsessively check your skin for something wrong. You even catastrophize the next flare before it even started to happen. You scroll through the forums and content to validate that this good week of clear skin is just temporary. That is actually not anxiety. That is actually your nervous system recreating the stress it was trained to run on. And every time it does that, it sends a signal to your body to stay in fight or flight mode. which ends up keeping the inflammation cycle alive. Because your body can't actually tell the difference between a real threat and a rehearsed one. And that is the cycle that we are going to break today. Personally, for me, when my skin genuinely started to get better, I was not relieved at all. I was terrified. I know this sounds crazy, but I would actually eat things that I knew that I was not supposed to be eating and do things that would actually give me a flare. And it's not because I wanted to suffer, but because suffering was familiar. Because I knew who I was when I was in pain. I did not know who I was when I was not in pain, which is, it's just so sad. If eczema has been a part of your life for a very long time, it starts to become part of your identity, whether you choose it or not. You become the girl who has to be careful, the girl who can't eat certain things, who wears certain fabrics, and who can't eat at certain places. And then when healing actually starts to happen, when your identity starts to actually shift into something different, it could feel like a loss. Like you're becoming somebody new and nobody has told you what that new person will look like yet. I promise you that the identity loss is real. And your nervous system, which does not know the difference between good change or bad change, treats it like a threat. So it ends up pulling you back to what it knows. The 3 practices I am about to share addresses that exact cycle. Practice 1, show up for yourself in the small things. When you're stuck in the stress cycle, the smallest daily habits or choices either reinforce that cycle or break it. You hit snooze, you reach for your phone, and you skip that thing that you promised yourself that you were going to do. And every time you make those choices, your nervous system gets a message. Discomfort is to be avoided. A nervous system that believes discomfort should be avoided will be on guard all day, moving forward. A nervous system that is on guard all day is an inflamed one. And an inflamed system is an inflamed body. So why is this happening? It's because nobody really taught us how to sit in discomfort. We are not wired for it by default. And when your baseline is already stressed, the last thing you want to add to that stress is more difficult habits. But here's another thing I learned from my mom growing up. She made us brush our teeth, make our beds, do all the things that we did not want to do first thing in the morning. But what she was actually teaching us was this. Showing up for yourself in the small things is actually showing yourself that you care. It is building evidence. Evidence that you are worth the effort to make things presentable and beautiful to come back to and taking care of yourself. Avoiding discomfort in the morning makes complete sense when you are already exhausted from the pain. If your skin literally kept you up all night, the last thing you want to do is make your morning even harder. That is actually not laziness. That is self-preservation. And it makes sense. But self-preservation and self-care is not the same thing. Self-preservation protects you from more pain in the moment, and self-care builds a version of you that has less pain in the next one. Choose one thing in the morning that your future self will thank you for, even if your present self does not want to do it. For some of you, it's a light workout. For the other half of you, it is actually choosing that 5 minutes of silence instead of reaching for your phone first thing in the morning. But for a lot of us with eczema, it is our morning skincare routine. And I want to reframe that specifically because I know that it can feel like a chore and just another thing to manage. But your morning routine is not a chore. It is feeding your skin what it actually needs to feel good in your body. The hydration, the moisture, the barrier support. Your skin actually loses moisture and water overnight through transepidermal water loss, which means that you wake up with skin that is depleted of water. The routine is you showing up for your body and yourself first thing in the morning. Every time you follow through on something that you told yourself that you were going to do ends up building trust within yourself. And when your nervous system starts to trust you, it ends up starting to feel safe over time. And when a nervous system starts to feel safe, it ends up starting to let its guard down. And when your body is not on guard all the time, that is when it starts to heal. Practice 2. Stop letting your diagnosis be your identity. The word chronic does something to how you see yourself. And over time, the diagnosis can become more than just a medical label. It becomes the lens. Everything you do, the plans you make, every relationship you navigate gets filtered through this, but what about my skin? And at some point, it becomes something that you just have, and then it becomes something that you are. When you have carried something for such a long time, your identity wraps around it. People know you as the one who is careful about what she eats, who cannot do certain things, who is always managing something. And there can be, and I say this with full compassion, a sort of comfort within that. People check on you when you are suffering. People give you grace, and then people understand why you cannot show up. When the suffering starts to lift, so does that dynamic. And losing that, even when the loss is good, can sometimes feel disorienting. Finding community around your illness makes sense. You want to be around people who understand. That is actually a real, and that's why I've created this community. But this is so important. There's actually a difference between a community that helps you overcome a condition and the one that helps you stay comfortable inside of it. One that is towards healing, the other is building a home within the suffering. And honestly, I've seen both online. I can tell the difference, and I'm sure that your nervous system can tell too, even if you cannot tell the difference for yourself yet. I say this with so much love. Start to rewrite that story, not by pretending that the pain is not real, because it is real, but by refusing to let it be the only thing that is real. When you catch yourself in the what if spiral, what if it does not work? What if I react badly? What if I just try and then fail? Notice that the what if question actually has two sides to the story, and you have unsubconsciously been practicing one of them. The same question goes the other way. What if it does work? What if this is a thing that actually starts to shift something? Practice asking that version. Your brain actually goes into the direction of what you rehearse the most. And when you talk about your healing, add that second half. Share the struggle and then share what you are going to do about it. That action piece is important, not just to perform positivity, because the second half is also true. You are doing something, you are here, and that counts. Your sickness is not your identity. Your gift is your identity. What you can do, what you can give, who you are becoming, that is who you are. The diagnosis is just something that you are moving through. It is not who you are. Practice 3. Open your heart before you are ready. When you have been in pain for so long, when the treatments have not worked, when you have hoped and then been disappointed, you close yourself off. Not all at once, but gradually. You start to stop expecting anything good, because expecting something good and then end up being wrong is too expensive of a disappointment to carry. And that closed off posture can sometimes feel like wisdom, like you finally learned your lesson about getting your hopes up. But a closed heart does not protect you from disappointment. It protects you from everything, from the treatment that actually might work, and from the version of your life that is on the other side of a decision that you are too afraid to make. A closed heart happens when you have decided, consciously or not, that you are the only one that can solve your problem, that trusting anything outside of yourself is too risky. So you end up relying on what you know, your experiences, your own conclusions, and even your own fears and limiting beliefs. And when your reference point is a nervous system that has been stuck in survival mode, your own conclusions are not going to give you the accurate information that you think it's going to give you. Your fear is not a fact. It is a pattern. Protecting yourself after you've been hurt makes sense, especially when something or someone lets you down. If a treatment failed, if hope let you down, if your own body has repeatedly not responded in the way that you hoped it did or needed it to, of course, it makes sense that you would build walls so that you wouldn't get hurt again. But there's a point when those walls that were protecting you start to contain you, where the guard you built against more pain is the exact thing that is standing between you and your healing. Opening your heart is not about being naive. It is not about trusting everything and everyone. It is about releasing the grip slowly. It's about surrendering the outcome while still trying to show up fully for the process. And to be honest, without God, I know that I would not be in the place that I am right now. I genuinely believe that. Every decision that I've made for my health, including the ones people in my life has disagreed with, I made by releasing the need to control the outcome and by trusting that I was going to be guided to what was right for me. That is not me being passive. That is actually the most active form of faith that I know of. And even if your faith looks different from mine, I think most people understand what it feels like to hold on so tightly to an outcome, to controlling every outcome that ends up pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion. And most people understand somewhere deep down that there is relief in just letting go. In practice, opening your heart looks like this. You do one thing that the healed version of yourself would do before you feel ready. You take that photo, you wear that outfit, you say yes to that thing that you've been waiting to say yes for, and stop making the excuse that you're going to do it once your skin gets better. You try that treatment option and you decide that what if this actually works instead of what if something goes wrong. You decide to open up your heart and let possibilities of good things happen to you if you just try. The action doesn't have to be big. What matters is the direction. Every time you move towards the healed version of you, you give your nervous system new evidence. Evidence that peace is possible, that things can be different, that you are allowed to receive something good. Your brain was not broken when it learned to run on stress. It was doing what it was built to do, keeping you safe in an environment that felt dangerous. That is actually intelligence, and that is survival. But survival mode was never meant to be something that you lived in permanently. Show up for yourself in the small things, not because it is easy, but because it's evidence that you actually care. Change the story that you've been telling yourself about pain, not by pretending that it's not real, but by refusing to let it be the only thing that is real. And open your heart before you feel ready, because the healing that you're looking for is not on the other side of a perfect skin day. It's on the other side of a decision to trust something bigger than your fear. And you have already made that decision. You watched the whole video. That is not nothing. That is part of you that is reaching for a solution. So if this video resonates with you, make sure you subscribe and share it with somebody that you know needs to hear this message. Drop a comment and tell me, which of these 3 practices are you starting with today? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, beautiful. Goodbye!